So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So I promised one of my viewers that I would share a little wisdom about how I learned how to defeat Mermail Atlantean. So I'm sort of going to be going through this deck that I made I guess it'd be a couple weeks ago. But essentially, in order to get inside the head of the enemy, you need to learn the strategy of your enemy. So let me go through this deck. First of all, the first major guy that I have in here is Mermail Atlantean, the Elemental Lord. Why? Because this guy is amazing. He's a 2800 beater. He's a level 8, so that doesn't really help with the rank 7 summonings. But his ability to special summon himself when you have 5 water monsters in your grave, and then be able to extract 2 cards from your opponent's hand to put them at a huge disadvantage, that is extremely important, because you need to be able to take away that advantage. Moving on to I don't even know how you pronounce this guy's name, but he's another 2800 beater, and he is a level 7, so you can use him for a rank 7. The main reason why I have him in here is because you can special summon from your hand or the graveyard, and a lot of the times I do actually have 3 level 3 or lower water monsters on my side of the field, so I can tribute them, because I've got like 1, 2, 3, okay, I've got a whole bunch of targets, at least 12 targets for this guy. And he's essentially a giant Trunade once he hits the field. And your opponent's monsters lose 300 attack. So he's extremely good for that ability. Yeah, I'm just showing you right now. This is actually a post-commentary technically, which these post-commentaries are a little bit harder to do, because I don't remember how long I spent looking at all of these. But yeah, I've got all of my Mermail cards and my Atlantean cards, and even my Fishborg Archer dude, who are targets for him. But I've also got Mermail Abyss Lead. I've only got one of this guy. I'm not sure how expensive he is in real life, but I see a lot of Mermail decks running this, and I understand now why. He's very difficult to summon through his own summoning conditions, discarding 3 other water monsters, because that puts you at a huge hand disadvantage. But he's 2700 attack, the most powerful Mermail monster that's not an XYZ monster. And when he is special summoned by his own effect, then you get to take an Abyss spell or trap card from your graveyard, essentially, and add it to your hand. Usually when I summon him, there's not a Mermail or Abyss card. There's not an Abyss spell or trap already in the grave. They're usually in the deck. But his ability to tribute another water monster that's in face of attack to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, that's pretty good. It doesn't say make your opponent discard, which means it hurts Dark Worlds. But it's really good because you can sacrifice something easily to put them at a huge disadvantage hand-wise. So Mermail Atlantean plus him equals your opponent's going to have a hard time. And then, of course, Mermail Abyss Megalo. 2 of him. Some people run 3. It depends. I only run 2 of him because he does require you to discard 2 other water monsters to special summon himself. But then you get an Abyss. I usually add an Abyss Sphere from my deck to my hand. So he's pretty good for that ability. And also, if you've got a useless water monster on your side of the field, like an Abyss Pike, you used his ability, well, you can sacrifice Abyss Pike to have Mermail Abyss Megalo deal essentially 4,800 damage. So he's really good in that. Also, he's a target for Atlantean Dragoons, which I'll show you a little bit later, and also Abyss Lyn. So Mermail Abysstius, I think he's newer than Abyss Megalo and Abyss Lead, but like those 2 already previously mentioned, he's a level 7. And he only requires 1 other water monster to discard to special summon himself, and then you get to add a 1 level 4 lower Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. That's pretty good for hand advantage. So you discard 1 to get 1, and you can go into a rank 7. He's got a decent defense too, 2400. So you can add a Lind, a Gund, or a Pike. Either one, it's really up to you. But usually what I'm using him to summon is I use him for his effect, and then immediately I XYZ summon. Normally, after Abyss Megalo or Abyss Lead's already used up their ability. So yeah, he's pretty good, and I run 3 of them for consistency with being able to bring out my rank 7s. So yeah. And then moving on to Atlantean Dragoons, which is the next card you'll see. Don't worry, I'll eventually hover over to Atlantean Dragoons. But Atlantean Dragoons, I think every single Mermail Atlantean deck runs 3. I don't think I've ever seen them not run 3. But evidently right now I'm looking at all of my ranks, so I'll just go through and talk about the rank 7s real quickly. So I've got Mermail, Abyss, Gaios, Draco, Sack, and Big Eye. Those are my rank 7s. I mean, I'm sure I'll talk about them later when I do my extra deck, but those are the main 3 that you want to focus on. So Atlantean Dragoons, yeah, his ability to make level 3 or lower Sea Serpent type monsters attack directly, and that's alright. That's not normally what you use this effect for. Normally it's discard him to like special summon the Abyss monsters, and then you get to add a Sea Serpent type monster. So you could discard him for Abyss Pike's effect, you could discard him for Fishborg Archer's effect, or to summon one of the big Mermail monsters, and then you get to add a Sea Serpent type monster. So you could add a Deep Sea Diva, you could add an Abyss Megalo, an Abyss Lead, and that's actually really it. I mean, you know, except for a Marksman and Heavy Infantry. But you can't add Abysstius, he's a Aqua for some reason. And you can't add another Atlantean Dragoons, I don't think. Yeah, because, well, it has to be low. Well, no? Oh, it says except Atlantean Dragoons. Okay, that's why. But yeah, I don't think that he's too broken, though. Like, a lot of people are saying, I don't see why he wasn't banned on the last ban list. Like, he's broken. I'm like, no, he's not broken. I mean, maybe his combo that he can pull off is broken, but he in himself is not broken. But anyway. Okay, so I only run 2 Mermail Abyss Pikes. So sometimes people run 3. I don't know anyone else that runs less than 2. But essentially when he's normal summon or special summon, you discard a water monster, which can then activate their effect. Like you discard a Marksman or Heavy Infantry, activate their effect, because it's for a monster's effect. And then you get to add, a level 3, it has to be exactly a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. So you could add an Abyss Lind, you could add a Marksman, you could add a Fishborg Archer, which is really good, because Fishborg Archer sometimes you want to be able to bring to your hand ASAP. Marksman is good, because, you know, maybe you need to special summon an Abyss Megalo, and Marksman bringing them to your hand will allow you to then destroy a face-down monster. So it's really good, but I only run 2 Abyss Pikes because he does have to be normal or special summon. It's easier to normal summon him than special summon. So it doesn't really matter. But normally if I do special summon like an Abyss Megalo or an Abyss Lead afterwards, what I'm normally going to do with Abyss Pike is I'm going to tribute him to activate his effect. Okay, so anyway, now I've got Mermail Abyss Lind. So normally what I'm doing with her is, I'm using her as a blocker most of the time. I'm either using Abyss Sphere to special summon her from my deck, and using her as a blocker, and either way, whether she's destroyed by Abyss Sphere's effect or destroyed in battle, she's going to be special summoning, what is it? She special summons 1 Mermail monster from your deck. So it could be Mermail Abyss Lead, Mermail Abyss Megalo, Mermail Abysstius, and really those are the only 3 guys I'm going after. Because they've got either high attack or high defense. Now, if you do special summon Abyss Megalo or Abysstius by Abyss Lind's effect, you don't get the ability to take an Abyss spell or trap from your graveyard or from your deck if it's for a Mermail Abyss Megalo, and add it to your hand, because they have to be special summoned by their own effect in order to get that. But it's still a high attack monster, and you get their second effect, so it's still really all good and everything. And you run 3 of them because I'm pretty sure every Mermail deck runs 3 Abyss Linds, because she's just really good for that. To the right of her is Mermail Abyss Gund, and essentially what she is there's only 2 of her because you have to discard her in order to get her effect. But sometimes if you've got an Abyss Lead in the graveyard and you're summoning an Abyss Megalo, so you could discard a Marksman and an Abyss Gun, get Marksman's effect and get Abyss Gun's effect. So she allows you to special summon a Mermail monster from your graveyard. Except a Mermail Abyss Gun. And yeah, so you special summon it and you can only activate it once per turn. So I could summon, special summon Abyss Megalo and then special summon from my graveyard Abyss Lead, and bam, you've already got like 2 high hit monsters. And that's actually pretty good to be able to get field advantage while not giving up too much hand advantage. But only 2 of them. And then I have 3 Marksmen. Some people run 2 Marksmen. I run 3 Marksmen because Back row really seems to be a problem these days, and I hate back row. Yeah, you just got to get rid of it ASAP. So Marksman's effect goes off if you send him from the deck to the grave, from your hand to the grave, whatever. So if you're running the Gen X Undyne, you can also activate his effect by sending him from the deck. But he can, when he attacks, he gets the ability to special summon a Sea Serpent type monster. A level 4 or lower Sea Serpent type monster. So you can special summon an Atlantean Dragoons. But I mainly use his effect to discard from my hand to destroy face down. So it could be a face down monster or a face down back row. It doesn't really matter. But he's good. Discard him for a special summon, discard him for Abyss Pike's effect, discard him for Fishborg Archer's effect, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So then I'm going to be going into my tuners. So what I've got here are my 2 tuners. I've got Fishborg Archer and Deep Sea Diva. So Fishborg Archer is a level 3, and Deep Sea Diva is a level 2. So between these 2 guys, essentially you're able to pull off every single synchro down here. It's a lot harder with... Well, it depends on the situation. Fishborg Archer has the ability to bring himself back from the grave. If you control no monsters, you can discard 1 water monster to special summon himself. So if you're at a field disadvantage, you can immediately bring him back by discarding a water monster. And that means that, say I had a marksman in my hand, and I discard that marksman to special summon him, I get marksman's effect plus I special summon Fishborg Archer, which is really good, because they can't... I don't think you can... I'm not sure which would come first, if they could activate a Solemn Warning on his special summon, because he's being special summoned by his own effect. I'm pretty sure you can't Solemn Warning him because he's being special summoned by his own effect. Sort of like Mermail Megalo summons himself by his own effect. But he's level 3, which is really good because you could take him and Abyss Pike immediately go into Gungnir. So it doesn't really matter. And then Deep Sea Diva is pretty good because, you know, when she's normal summon, you get a special summon like a level 3 or lower. Oh shoot, I don't even remember what her effect is. I'll move over in a second. But yeah. Okay, level 3 or lower Sea Serpent type monster from your deck. That's what I figure. Normally what you'll do is you could special summon her, or normal summon her to special summon heavy infantry from your deck, and then use heavy infantry's effect to normal summon, in addition, marksman from your hand. Which means 2 plus 2 plus 3 equals 7. That's Gungnir right there. And Gungnir is a pretty boss monster, so that's what I was showing you down below. And I run 2 Gungnirs just for consistency, because he's really good. Or if you didn't have heavy infantry, so you could just special summon a marksman and go into a level 5. Every combination is possible, or you could special summon a heavy infantry and go into an armory arm. It doesn't really matter. Every single possibility is down there. You've got a level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, level 8, and level 9 for synchros. Because this deck can pull it off. It's really good about that. And that's why I like it anyway. I prefer actually tuning more than I do overlaying. It's just a preference. Just because I like the synchro whites versus the exceed blacks. But whatever. So yeah, I've got my Holy Trinity and whatnot. And then I've got my 2 salvages. So I like salvage because target 2 water monsters with 1500 or less attack in your graveyard. Add them to your hand. It's essentially a Dark Factor mass production for waters. And a lot of the times what you have is like maybe an Abyss Megalo in your hand and you need to special summon them. Well, you can use salvage, bring 2 monsters back, then discard them and special summon them. And between those 2 salvages and the ability to discard monsters willy-nilly, you can control how many water monsters you have in your grave. That way you can make sure you have exactly 5 water monsters in your grave, so I can special summon Maulin Glacia, the Elemental Lord. So 2 salvages gives you lots of control. One of the things that you don't see in here is a Pot of Avarice, and that's because Pot of Avarice just isn't as... It's just not as good as you think it would be in this deck. I tried using it, and most of the time I draw it when I just absolutely can't use it. I don't need it. So I don't even worry about Pot of Avarice anymore. Yeah, but anyway. So I've got 2 MSTs also to help get rid of back row. I always run 2, not 3, and not 1, because I actually want to draw it. But I don't run 3 because that's a little too aggressive, and in my opinion, Mystical Space Typhoon should be semi-limited to 2. But, you know, that's just my opinion. because it's just too aggressive otherwise, like really. But yeah, so I'm just showing you, like, there are a whole bunch of targets that have 1500 or less attack. So you've got all of the bottom row, and Abysslin over to the right, all of them have less than 1500 or exactly 1500 attack. So you can bring them back. Abyss Pike is the first one who has more than 1500 attack. He has 1600. But yeah, so anyway. And then over to the right of where the MSTs are, you have Abyss Squall, and I only have one version of that. So Abyss Squall, or actually let me talk about Mirror Force. I've only got one Mirror Force just to stop those people that are really aggressive. I was thinking between either Mirror Force or Torrential Tribute, and I decided to go with Mirror Force just because Torrential Tribute, I don't want to blow up my field. I just want to stop their field. But anyway, so to the right of Mystical Space Typhoon is Abyss Squall, which is one of the Abyss trap cards that I have. Its ability is to target 3 Mermail monsters that are in your graveyard and special summon them. Now, their effects are negated and they're put into face-up defense position, and they're destroyed at the end of the phase, but that's okay, because a lot of times the reason why you're activating Abyss Squall is because you have a tuner on the field, so you can start doing some synchro monsters, or you are able to make some rank 7s out of them, or something, I don't know. They can also be tributed, so if you want to tribute summon for some reason, you can, or if you have Poseidra in your hand and you want to tribute some level 3 or lower water monsters, you can use this for that effect as well. But only run 1, because you do have to have 3 Mermail monsters in your grave, which is not as easy as it sounds. So yeah. Anyway, and then to the right of Mirror Force, I have shit, I don't even remember what the hell it's called. I'll move over in a second. Okay, Abyss Scorn. Oh yes, Abyss Scorn is actually really good. It's sort of like a Rush Recklessly, except it gives your Mermail monster 1000 attack until the end phase. And when it's sent to the grave, it targets a monster on your opponent's side of the field and destroys it. So not only does your monster probably going to survive this turn, but if your opponent has another monster that he was going to attack with, well, as soon as this card leaves the field, it's going to get destroyed, and then next turn you're going to attack probably directly or something. I don't know. But it's really good to save your Mermail monster. So, like if they attack with a Blackluster Soldier, trying to attack your Mermail Abyss Megalo or something, you're like, no, fuck you, BLS. Take, what, 400 damage. And I'll destroy your Chaos Sorcerer or something. I don't know, whatever. But, yeah, so you've got Abyss Sphere here. So you just select a Mermail monster from your deck and special summon it. It doesn't really matter that its effects are negated or it'll be destroyed during your opponent's next end phase, because usually what you're summoning is a Mermail Abysslin as a blocker. I've never special summoned any other monster with Abyss Sphere's effect, because it seems like you always have an Abysslin in your deck because you've got 3 of them, and which is really good because then she can special summon a high power Mermail monster from your deck. So it's really good, and yeah, so that's essentially my 40 card setup. Excuse me. And so if you notice, one of the things that I tried to do with this deck is try to keep as much hand advantage as possible, but this deck doesn't really do a good job of that. So what you need to be able to do is destroy your opponent's field. If you're facing Mermail monsters, you need to destroy your opponent's field, because there's not much in your normal deck that you can do to stop that. It's mainly going to happen in your extra deck. So you've got stuff like Mistworm. He's actually pretty easy to pull off. He's just in case of your opponent's running some stuff that you need to get up off the field, usually monsters. You can pick them up and send them back to their hand. I've got Stardust Dragon because he's pretty obvious, and I've got 2 Gungners because, well, he's actually not too hard to pull off in this deck, and sometimes he gets Dark Hold, because, I mean, this deck can't do much against a Dark Hold. I guess you could run some Solemn Judgments or Dark Bribes, but it would really take away from the effectiveness of this deck. And his ability to discard 2 cards from your hand, doesn't matter what the 2 cards are. If it just happens to be water monsters, like in a Marksman or Heavy Infantry, then their effects go off in addition to Gungnir's effect. So you can destroy possibly 4 cards from just discarding 2 of them, which is pretty amazing. I have Black Rose just because it's Black Rose. It's another level 7, just like Gunra. And then I've got this guy, the Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. And the reason why I have him is because he's a level 6, but also if you've got water monsters on the field that you don't want on the field because they're weak, you can bounce them back to your hand, so that way you could use them to discard to special summon a monster. And he gets a 500 attack boost until the end phase for every monster that he does bounce back to your hand. So it works out in a lot of ways, because you can add those bounced monsters back to your hand to special summon, like a Mermail Abyss Megalo or something, while giving him an attack point boost. So it really does work out in the end. I've got Catastor just because he's a level 5. He's good for being able to get rid of shit like, I don't know, Blackluster Soldier. And also I've got Armory Arm. The only reason why I have Armory Arm is because he's a level 4. So mainly the way that you're getting him out is heavy... Actually, the only way you're getting him out is Deep Sea Diva special summoning heavy infantry from your deck. So sometimes that's all you can pull off, and it's good enough, because you can attach Armory Arm to Mermail Abyss Megalo, making him 3,400. And if he has the ability to attack twice, just think about it, because every single time he destroys a monster, with 3,400 attack, you're going to inflict damage anyway. But then, on top of that, you inflict damage equal to that monster, the destroyed monster's attack. That's not too bad. Mermail Abyss Gaios, even though it says Gaio Abyss, it's Abyss Gaios. He's pretty good because as long as he has an XYZ material, level 5 or higher monsters cannot attack, which means rank 5 or higher monsters can, but level 5 or higher monsters cannot. So you're mainly only dealing with XYZs at this point. Also, you can detach an XYZ material monster to negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls, which is really good. Why? Because you can negate Stardust from being able to do anything. Also, this keeps Quasar from being able to attack, which is pretty good. And Quasar can't negate it. Then I've got Draco Sack. So what Draco Sack essentially is he's also another rank 7. But he can special summon, detach an XYZ material monster, special summon 2 Phantom tokens. You can tribute one of the Phantom tokens to destroy one monster on your opponent's side of the field, but he can't attack that turn. But as long as there's a Phantom token on the side of the field, he can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, which is pretty nice. It keeps him on the field for a long time. So you can special summon him face-up defense or face-up attack. I'd special summon him face-up defense if you're going to be using his tribute ability. And then Big Eye, because he's easy to get out and he can fuck over your opponent. Photon Papilloperative, because she's a good rank 4 regardless. She can flip up, well, I was going to say Sangan. Okay, another weak monster, decreases attack by 600, and she can attack it. And if you've got other powerful monsters on your side of the field, you can go all out, essentially. It's really good. Abyss Dweller, I just have him in here because he's got the word Abyss in his name. Apparently he's really good because he can stop card effects from being activated in the graveyard. Like it used to work on Sangan, but, you know, I guess any other cards that you would have activate, he's okay. All water monsters you control gain 500 attack. Well, that's good. And number 17, Leviathan Dragon. So he's my level 3, or he's my rank 3, which I'd be using my level 3. So you could use Abyss Lyn. Looks like Abyss Gun, Fishborg Archer, Marksman, whatnot. So he's good because he's easy to summon, and you can immediately make him 2,500, which is pretty good, while still being able to attack directly. Or if you need to get over something like a Scrap Dragon, you can make him 3,000, which is pretty nice. So that's pretty much the idea behind the Mermail Atlantean deck. So I was just going to show you a real quick duel of what it looked like, a typical hand. So yeah, I've got MST and Abyss Sphere face down. So if Jarvis tries to attack me with a monster, I can immediately use Abyss Sphere's effect. He can fissure it, but then, you know, I get her effect. So now what are you going to do, bitch? Yeah, exactly. So now, plus Abyss Sphere goes to the grave, so it gets rid of that shit. And now what I can do is, yeah, go into that and attack. I could have attacked twice by tributing a monster, but, you know, it's fine. I don't mind. And So yeah, I don't know exactly what it... Yeah, he's just going to play it face down and whatnot. But I can now summon... yeah, see? Now I'm bringing back those 2 monsters. Exactly! Oh my gosh. What I can do... Yeah, I'm sending Marksman to the grave to add another one. Now Marksman's effect goes off. Now I discard those 2 to special summon him. And I use Abyss Gun's effect to special summon Abyss Lind from the graveyard. And now I can tribute Abyss Pike and Abyss Lind for each one of my Megalos to be able to attack twice. That's like 4,800, 7,000. That's, Jesus, that's 11,800 attack. You know, if I were to attack with all of them. But those 2 monsters, those 3 monsters right there would be able to attack for 11,800. Which is pretty good. Yeah, but anyway, so that's Mermail Atlanteans in a nutshell. So hopefully you learned something from that. If you didn't, you know, you can always just ask in the comment section. No problem. But anyway, so thanks, see ya, and goodbye.